putting herself in danger on purpose for attention. The anger I'd been carrying around was eating me alive, so I finally agreed to see a therapist. My mom found someone who took our insurance, and I went to my first appointment feeling stupid about the whole thing. The therapist listened to me rant for 20 minutes about how unfair everything was, and then asked me a simple question about what I wanted to happen next. I realized I'd been so focused on revenge fantasies that I wasn't thinking about my actual future. She helped me see that staying angry was keeping me stuck in that classroom where Mrs. Pierce collapsed. We made a plan to work through the trauma, but I still left feeling raw and exhausted. A month later came the worst part, my deposition with the Pierce family's lawyer. Nadine spent hours preparing me, going over every possible question they might ask. The lawyer was this older guy who kept trying to get me to admit I'd vandalized the school or made the online posts about them. I stuck to the truth, that I was angry, but didn't do those things, and he kept pushing and pushing. Nadine objected to half his questions, and we took 5 breaks because I was getting too upset. The whole thing took 6 hours, and by the end I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Lance called me the next week saying his investigation was ready to publish. He'd found 3 other families who had similar experiences with the Pierces, using the allergy to get money or destroy people who crossed them. One family had their small business shut down after Mrs. Pierce claimed they didn't take her allergy seriously at a catered event. Another family's kid got expelled from private school after accidentally bringing trail mix near her. The pattern was clear, and Lance had all the documentation to prove it. The article came out on a Sunday, and by Monday morning it had been shared over 1,000 times. People were finally seeing what I'd been saying all along. The school district's lawyers contacted Nadine that same week with a settlement offer. They would clear my disciplinary record completely and write a letter to all the colleges explaining that my suspension was an overreaction to a medical emergency. They also offered a small cash settlement for the damage to my education. Nadine said it wasn't everything we wanted, but it would help fix my college applications. I wanted them to admit more fault, but she reminded me that getting my record cleared was the most important thing. We were still negotiating when the next disaster happened. Mrs. Pierce had another allergic reaction at the elementary school when a 5-year-old hugged her after lunch. The kid had eaten a peanut butter sandwich and hadn't washed his hands. This time, people weren't as sympathetic, because everyone was asking why she kept putting herself in these situations. The parents at the elementary school started a petition to have her transferred somewhere else. My old boss from my part-time job called that afternoon. He said he'd read Lance's article and realized he'd been pressured by the Pierce family's threats about lawsuits. He offered me my job back with all the back pay I'd missed. I needed the money for college, so I said yes, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was just covering his own ass. The trust between us was completely gone, and going back to work. There felt like admitting defeat somehow. 3 weeks later, we were all sitting in a conference room at some law office downtown for the mediation. The room had this huge table, and everyone looked uncomfortable being there. Mrs. Pierce sat across from me with her daughter right next to her, and their lawyer on the other side. Nadine had warned me this would be tough, but I wasn't ready for what happened next. About an hour into going over all the documents and evidence, Mrs. Pierce just started crying. Not quiet tears either, but full-on sobbing while her daughter tried to shush her. "I never wanted any of this to happen," she kept saying between sobs. Her daughter grabbed her arm